Hey, and welcome to another episode of Cult Life. Thank you for joining me again this week. I've had quite a busy month with work, so I've been absent from the show for a while. But this is the first show in quite a few weeks, so let's get straight into it. I want to discuss something very pertinent to the South African political landscape as we see it today. And that's the issue of political cults. History is littered with cults that use political ideals as their base. Classic examples of this is, Hitler's Nazi Germany, Stalin's communist Russia. And from these examples, we could see mind control on a massive scale. On a smaller scale, we have black and white supremacists, terrorists, and rebel groups commonly use forms of mind control to recruit and dominate their members and people who follow them. But under this type of cult, we include examples such as the Michigan Militia as well, the Nation of Islam, the Ku Klux Klan, a well-known organization in America that has subsequently lost quite a bit of support, although its resurgence in the past few years, has been quite alarming and disturbing. And from a South African point of view, a few years ago, we also had the Afrikaner Weerstand Beweeging, the AWB, which was headed by Eugene Terreblanche, which was quite a charismatic person in himself, with many followers and adherents to this political organization. Now, from a religious perspective, talking about religious personality cults, we look at Jim Jones and the People's Temple. We look at David Koresh and the Branch Davidians and so forth. And these groups all had very charismatic leaders at the helm. And that one identifying mark we could actually transpose into political cults as we see them today. And much of what we'll be discussing in this show, I must credit Ismail Hlaudi for his opinion piece that he wrote in the Daily Maverick in January, I think, of this year, which discussed the whole issue about political cults in the South African landscape as well. There's been an increase in the political personalities and the formation of political cults around political leaders recently. Smaller parties, and I specifically talk about South Africa, like the EFF, the African Transformation Movement, and the ACM, which have all come up in the past few years. And recently, just before our general election, we had the rise of Hlaudi Motsoeneng's party, and of course Andile Mngxitama's party. Now, the prominent leadership figures around these parties is what's of interest to us, and what I want to discuss today, and how these political parties, actually mirror the religious cults as well. Now, for the ruling African National Congress, just before the election campaign, much of their campaign was centered around Cyril Ramaphosa, for instance. But I see the ANC and the Democratic Alliance much less of a cult than, say, the EFF and of course the African Content Movement and the Black First, Land First movement as well. Now, Motsoeneng, Julius Malema, and to a lesser extent Motsoeneng Manye, who has joined the African Transformation Movement, are strong personalities within their respective parties. It's different with the EFF, however, because Malema is arguably the EFF and the EFF is Malema. Now, this is the tactic and the whole mechanism that the EFF uses is a very fascist and populist movement that the EFF actually uses. The EFF has already declared that Malema's face, just going back to the election, if you look at the political parties and their posters that they've put up, the different political parties had different posters during the campaign with different leaders whose faces appeared prominently on the election posters. However, with the EFF, it was Julius Malema's face on all of the posters. And I distinctly remember driving around during the election campaign time, in the electioneering time, and it was only Julius Malema's face on all of the posters, son of the soil, as they would say. Now, this is very reminiscent of the way that populist, fascist, and dictators create a political cult. If we go back to the 1930s, to Italy during Mussolini's time, Mussolini's face was plastered all over Italy at the time. We look at North Korea. The Kim family's faces and their likenesses and their statues are all over North Korea. And this is what creates this populist movement around a certain individual or a certain family within these political cults. Now, the idea of the personality cult, as applied to politics of the past 100 years or so, typically refers to non-democratic regimes or movements that promote an idealized image of a leader and generate personal worship of that said leader. And one of the standout examples, of course, which I mentioned before, is Benito Mussolini in Italy, Joseph Stalin in Russia, Vladimir Lenin in the Soviet Union, and of course Adolf Hitler as well. In South America, we've also had examples of political cults centered around personalities, like Juan Perón in Argentina, Francois Duvalier in Haiti, and of course Fidel Castro in Cuba as well. In Africa, we've had Nasser in Egypt, and Mobutu Sese Seko in what was called Zaire. Also, if you look at the history of Uganda, Idi Amin, you could also mention there that was a political cult on a massive scale there. And of course there were many others, but there's a strong case to be made as well, and I'm going to go to the US in this instance, with regards to the rise of Donald Trump and his US presidency and this wave of a strong personality that has swept up around Trump and has swirled around him. And we can see this still playing out today, and especially in South Africa. What's happened in the past few months in South Africa with regards to the EFF is a typical example of the strong personality cult, political cult that is developed around Julius Malema and the EFF. So let's delve a little bit more into this whole personality cult surrounding the EFF, especially because it has become quite disturbing as to how the EFF operates, how they handle themselves in Parliament, how they use violence, thuggery, to further their political agenda. And this is quite disturbing, because in a country that is built on a democratic society, there is no place for a authoritarian, thuggish, autocratic style of leadership. And that's exactly what the EFF is portraying at the moment. So Malema, the EFF's commander-in-chief, and other leaders of his party have been accused of undemocratic behavior and abuse by party members very often, and this is consistent with populist, autocratic, and a dictatorial leadership style. The EFF's constitution is clear that it wants to establish and I quote, a dictatorship of the people. It is this blend of populism, this autocratic behavior, and dictatorship that makes a personality cult so odious. The African Content Movement is a very small party led by Hlaudi Motsoeneng, but I think it's subsequently been dissolved following its dismal performance in the elections. But there we could also see that how the party was centered around one man with quite a big ego, around Hlaudi Motsoeneng. So we have other political parties, smaller parties in the country, like the Freedom Front Plus, COPE as well. These are small parties, but they have a democratic ethos within their structures, and they generally play by the rules and let their politics or policy positions speak louder than their leaders. Now, coming back to the EFF and how the cult around Malema is playing out. The EFF demands absolute loyalty to the leader and the party, and this is part of their constitution. The Section 4, Clause 2 of the EFF Constitution specifically demands a vow of absolute loyalty from all members and insists that individuals are subordinate to the majority. This is Motsoeneng, even Hlaudi Motsoeneng, with his African content movements, his recent statement that democracy in his party was limited. It is also perfectly in keeping with autocrats and dictators across history who demand absolute loyalty from their followers. So a lot depends on the qualities of a charismatic leader, just as a political leader can be potentially dangerous, so too a religious leader within the cult domain as well. So from this comparison, we can actually see how political cults come up, how their charismatic leaders like Julius Malema and the EFF, the cult of personality, where everything hinges around that one particular individual. And it's quite concerning, because many of the fascist movements in history, history, as I said before, is littered with examples of this, and it normally doesn't end well, as we've seen. Many of these political leaders and the cult personalities are in it for personal gain and have no regard for the rank and file. So political cults is something, is just another sphere of the whole cult issue that needs to be discussed in this country. Apart from the religious cults that I constantly speak of, political cults is something that South Africa and the rest of the world need to be very much aware of. History has many examples of this, and we've seen devastating consequences on both sides of the spectrum, be it religious and the political sphere. Now, I want to leave you with this. In 1990, Lucy Patrick commented, "Although we live in a democracy, cult behavior manifests itself in our unwillingness to question the judgment of our leaders, our tendency to devalue outsiders, and to avoid dissent. We can overcome cult behavior," he says, "by recognizing that we have dependency needs that are inappropriate for mature people, by increasing anti-authoritarian education, and by encouraging personal autonomy and the free exchange of ideas." I'm going to leave you with that tonight. Until next time, this is Robin Jackson signing off with Cult Life. Bye for now.